What's up, good people? It's your boy, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr., but I am not by myself. I am not by myself. I know y'all used to seeing me on a couple of different aspects and a couple of different shows, and I got another one. I got another one. It's Upwards Magazine, if you can see right there. And this is our inaugural Upwards Magazine Upwards Conversation. We're going to be talking to some phenomenal people that are impacting, that are influencing, and just making a difference in the community, for the community, about the community. So we thought it would be a great pleasure to be able to bring you all just a little bit of, kind of behind the scenes type thing, get more in-depth conversation with those that are on the cover of Outward magazines. And today, we have a special young lady to start it off. And man, wait until y'all hear about this power-packed woman of God. Yes, I said a power-packed woman of God who was just doing some extraordinary things in ministry, in the community, and for people in general. So we're going to get into our conversation in just a little bit, but she is none other than Dr. Shavonna Whitehead, right here from my hometown. She right up here in Baltimore. So if y'all don't know, or y'all may not be aware, Upward Magazines is a global magazine. It's an international magazine. It's not here in the States. It is actually out of India, for those of you that may not know. So Dr. Shavonna and I being here from Baltimore and reaching the globe is just absolutely phenomenal. So I'm just happy to have as the first guest someone from my hometown that's from none other than Baltimore, Maryland. So we're going to have just a great conversation, and we're going to introduce you to some phenomenal people along this upwards conversation journey that we're on. So y'all can sit up, y'all can take some notes and learn some more, and don't forget to check out the latest issue of the magazine, which you see she is right there on the front, right there on the front. You can go subscribe to the magazine. You can actually go get your subscription, and then you also want to check out that article, that great article that's in there about her and for her. So we want to thank you all for tuning in. And Dr. Shavonna, welcome, and thank you for joining me on this first show. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being with us, and I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be able to come and join us and talk with us just a little bit about what you have going on. So we appreciate you very much. And I like to start my conversations off by doing this. Is by I'm not going to read your bio because I'm going to let you tell us about who Dr. Shavonna Whitehead is. If you can, just tell us a little bit about who you are.
So that's a mouthful of who Dr. Shavonna Whitehead is. If you start to begin to follow me, you'll see people calling me Dr. Vaughn. That is what I go by a lot of the times. But literally, I am just a person with a heart to serve. I am a woman that is just looking to empower others to be their best selves. I am a preacher. I am a woman of God who has submitted my total being to God. And listen, wherever God takes me, that's where I flow. And so for me, I do hold a doctorate in social and environmental justice from the infamous ITC in Atlanta and Morehouse School of Religion. And so I serve at Ark Church in Baltimore, Maryland. And so my bishop is Bishop Carter. And listen, I am just excited just for God to do what he does. And so for me, the circumference of who I am is whatever God wants me to be. And so I've been through some things, overcome some things, survived some things, and I am here to be the proof that God does all things well.
I love that. I love that. And I think that being an overcomer. As you said, it's funny you said that, and that word stuck out to me, and it has stuck out to me because the my I usually try to have like themes for the week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of to motivate me, motivate others. And this week, the word that I've used is overcome. I watched the movie, and I don't know if you've seen it, the movie Overcomer, with the young lady. Oh, you got to watch it. You will love it. It's a movie about this young lady who, yeah, it's about the main character is this young lady who she goes out for the track team. She's the only one on the track team. She's the only person on the track team, and she has asthma. And the coach, he becomes the track coach because they have a bunch of layoffs with the team. I mean, with the school, they have a couple of layoffs with the school, but it's about her being on this track team, and the coach, he winds up finding out that her father is in the hospital. She doesn't know her father. She thought her father was dead.
Wow.
He finds out that the gentleman, because they start to have conversations, and so he starts to talk about his, a little bit about his past, and he mentions that he has this daughter that's around 15 years old, which is the age that she was, and the things that he had gotten into, because he was out there in his younger years, and when he had the daughter, kind of lost his way with his I think girlfriend at the time. I don't think they were married. I don't know if they got married or not. If they were married, but he wound up not knowing her, his daughter, and the grandmother winds up raising the daughter because the mother passes away. She's no longer here, so the grandmother is angry, and she tells the daughter, oh, her granddaughter, that her father has passed away because she didn't want him to have anything to do with it. So the coach winds up having these conversations, finds out, wow, this might be his daughter. So he asks him some questions and everything like that. So the story is about her running track and becoming a really good cross country track runner, but also them. She finds out about him, her father being alive, and him actually coaching her through one of her championship race. It's a great story. It's actually it's a Christian story. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie. What is it? Is it Chasing the Giants? I don't know if it's Chasing the Giants or something the Giants or War Room. You might be familiar with War
Mm-hmm.
Room.
Of course, absolutely.
The same gentleman, it's two brothers that wrote War Room, wrote Chasing the Giants, and wrote this movie Overcomer, and they're Christians. So their movies are Christian based, and that's what this movie is about. It's Christian based. It's a great movie. If you get a chance, you can. I don't know if you can watch it on Netflix or something like that. I'm sure it's on, but it's such a great movie about being an overcomer. These obstacles that get put in our way. Her having to overcome the asthma, being a track runner, and then the ultimate overcoming is she has to overcome the hurt of not knowing her father, but then knowing her father and that relationship that they have. And I'm not going to tell the whole story, but them having this relationship or developing this relationship in the movie. It's just a great movie. But becoming an overcomer is my theme this week. Is the thing that I'm pressing for people to understand. No matter the obstacles, no matter the trials, because they're going to come. But being an overcomer, being able to sustain yourself, and being able to do what it is that God has ordained and assigned you to be able to do. So I love that you said being an overcomer, that you are overcoming.
Absolutely.
So I want to start with this. What I ask you this question: what got you started in ministry? What was it? What was it that made you have that you knew that you had that calling?
So I am a PK. My grandfather, who raised me, was my pastor, my spiritual father. And so I'm a grandpa's girl all the way.
Okay.
And so ministry, I grew up in church. I was the church baby. And so I grew up in ministry. My lineage is ministry. All of my grandfather's siblings are preachers.
Okay.
I have cousins that are preachers. And so my lineage is in ministry. However, the truth of the matter is I did not want to be a preacher. I did not, because being a PK, you see everything in ministry. And I just wanted to sing. I didn't want to do nothing else. Let me sing. And I was called, realized something was different about me. And I was called in my teenage years, but I refused. I refused. And I did not submit to my calling until I was in my 20s.
Okay.
It literally, I didn't want to, but the more I didn't want to, the more God pressed it that's just who I was. I couldn't get away from it, because even without the title, I still found myself preaching. Even without the title, I still found myself serving. And so that's actually how it actually navigated after my relationship went from just being a church girl to me actually developing a relationship with God and him really speaking to me, that I couldn't deny my calling and my place in ministry. So I just had to go ahead, submit to it. So in my 20s, I submitted to the Lord. I preached my initial sermon. I was ordained in 2006 in the Pentecostal Reformation. I was reaffirmed in the Baptist Reformation in 2016. And so, I am who I am, and there's nothing I can deny about it. And most of all, I am grateful that God chose me and still considered me, because during my time of running, I sure didn't do what he wanted me to do. During my time of not submitting, I probably did a lot of stuff that wasn't pleasing, but yet and still, he still called me. He still chose me. And so I didn't choose ministry. Ministry chose me. And so that's where I am. And my total yes to God is actually just what saved my life. It's actually what keeps my mind. And so that's how I ended up in ministry.
And I love that.
Yeah.
And it's those of us, because I'm a PK kid as well. My father was an elder, and and even though I wasn't in, I didn't grow up with my father in the household, he was still, a part of my life, and it's a difference. And I want you to talk about that, if you can, just for a little bit, because I know my father would tell me, "You're gonna be a preacher. You're gonna be a pastor." That was he was like, "Well, your grandfather was. I am. You gonna be." And we would have these, I'll say, conversations, discussions about me being this pastor, preacher, and everything like that. I said, and I'm honest. I was honest with him, and I said, "Dad," I said, "Who are you to call me?" I said, "You don't dictate to me what God is. If that's what He has for me, then that's what He has for me. He has to tell me that, not you." When we had these conversations, and I always go back to that, because I think about sometimes, and maybe you can talk a little bit about that. Is there pressure, or was there pressure for you growing up, where like you said, "Hey, I'm trying to get as far away from this calling, or what people are telling me that I'm called to do, and because of who I think I should be versus who God eventually called you to be." Do you think that there's pressure being a preacher's kid in that?
So I do believe that some people have pressure, but for me to tell my story, I didn't. So my grandfather never pressured me to say, "You're going to be a preacher." Right. My grandfather never pressured me to say, "Hey, you need to follow in my footsteps." He was always one who shaped and molded me to just be who I was supposed to be. And so when I just wanted to sing, my daddy let me sing. When I just wanted to work music ministry, that's what he did. My grandfather let me work music ministry. He never pushed me into that. My experience being a PK was being picked apart for everything that I did.
Oh, wow.
So, everything that I did was picked apart from childhood, even up to I was walking in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
It was always someone trying to pick apart me or trying to say, that I was walking in certain offices because I was the preacher's kid, or I had certain titles in ministry because I was a preacher's kid. But little did they know, number one, the title that I was walking in, I didn't really want, but it was God that called me to. For example, as the youth pastor, they would pick apart the things that I did, as far as, oh, you're only the youth pastor because you're the preacher's kid. Mm-hmm. But little did they know I was the hardest working one. I was the one that was under scrutiny. I was the one that he didn't let get away with anything. Mm-hmm. I was the one that if I messed up, I did get pulled into the office. Yep. I was the one who did get reprimanded. So when they thought, oh, she doesn't get reprimanded, oh, she can do whatever, I was actually the one that he was the hardest on, because his motto was always, they'll never be able to say you didn't work for it. He instilled that in me. My grandfather always said, they'll never be able to say you didn't work for it. That's why he sent me to school. He said, they'll never be able to say you're not qualified. That's why he sent me to get my master's. That's why he helped me get my doctorate. He said, they'll never be able to say I gave you anything. They'll always be able to say that you worked for it and that God approved it. And so that's one of the greatest gifts that my grandfather gave me, was he didn't just let me go. He didn't push me into anything. He didn't just give me anything. He made me work so that if anybody ever said anything, I could always say, nope, I went through the process. I went through the process to get here. It wasn't just placed on me. And that made me who I am today. That's why I value the steps in the journey that I've gone through. That's why I don't despise any part of my journey, because I believe that it was essential to make me who I am today.
And I love that story, Doctor. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you a quick story. Same kind of relevance. When I was growing up, my father was an educator. He was a physics teacher here in Baltimore. And he, when I went to high school, he was my JV basketball coach, right? And I had to go out for the team, like everybody else. And he started the young boy over me that I knew I was better than. Mm-hmm. And so about maybe 1 or 2 games in, he then started me. And so I got up the nerve to ask him, everybody knew that I was better than the guy, but you still started him over. And he said, why? I said, why? And he said, because he said, I knew you were better. I knew you were better than him. He said, but 1, I wanted you to know that you were better. But then 2, I wanted everybody else to know that you were better and that you earned it. Like you just said, that you earned it. And that just because you were my son, that I wasn't going to give you anything. And I've taken that lesson with me throughout my whole life, that nobody, he said that nobody is going to give you anything, and nobody is promised, doesn't have to do anything for you. He said, you have to work for it. So that lesson, I love that you said your grandfather taught that to you, because it gives us the understanding that we aren't entitled to anything, entitled to anything just because of who we are. So I love that story that you talk about there.
Absolutely.
And, because it's crucial for individuals to understand that we're not entitled to anything. And then nobody's going to give you anything in this world.
Nah.
Not a thing. Now, I want you to, being in ministry, I want to ask you this. How has ministry changed or shifted from when you first started to now? Have you seen a difference in
it? So for those that don't know, so my grandfather is Dr. Walter Brunson Jr. And so he is known in the city. And when I first got in ministry, it was amazing. It was little Brunson. Okay, I'm a preacher's kid. I know how to do this thing called ministry. I'm in here. I got it. When I walked into ministry as a woman, with the anointing that I have, I was slapped in the face real quick. Wow. That there was a difference in how a woman was accepted versus how a man was accepted. And ministry, like, it was a shock. I remember going to my grandfather crying one day because I went to a church to preach. And after I got there, as right before it's time to preach, they come and whisper in my ear, you won't be able to go to the pulpit. Now I'm confused because in my church, we didn't have that. My grandfather ordained his first female preacher. I was 11 years old. So I didn't know anything about that. Right. And I didn't combat it. I preached from the floor. But then when I went and told my dad, one thing my dad said to me, and it stuck with me ever since. He said, are you a preacher, whether you're in the pulpit or on the floor? And I said, well, Dad, yeah, I'm still a preacher. He said, then never allow them to shift your mind and get you distracted because of where you deliver God's word. He said, you be who God called you to be, and the rest will come in order. And as I began to evolve into ministry, and now I've been preaching now 16 years this year, May. And as I begin to continue to grow in ministry, I realized that I realized more that I focus more on God than whether or not somebody accepts my gender. Mm-hmm. I became more secure in who I am and who God has called me to be, because though I am still within the Baptist denomination, I have an apostolic anointing on my life, which makes it me kind of different. And the oil that's on my life is sometimes different. But one thing I have as I've grown and matured in my relationship with God is I am who I am. God has created me to be who I am. I don't have to dilute it. I don't have to change it. I don't have to be uncomfortable. I can be true to who I am, and God will take care of the rest. So now that I am more seasoned in ministry, I trust God. My motto is it's always safe to go with God. And so I don't allow those mediocre distractions to distract me. Do I still experience that? Absolutely. Yeah. Even in 2022, yeah. I still experience issues being a woman in ministry versus how my male counterparts are are treated. Mm-hmm. Even though I might have more credentials than them, right. I still even experience that even on this journey. Ministry has kind of evolved for me to be really me and God, because I've gone through the experiences. If you just allow me a minute, I've gone through those experiences where I was in a pastoral position where it came down to me and another person to be the candidate to be pastor for a church. Right. And they chose the male, not because his credentials were better than mine, but simply because his gender was different than mine. Right. Right. How do I know? Because they told me afterwards. I got wind that they told me afterwards. Mm-hmm. Then ministry, even after my dad passed, I had to experience going back to the title. If you take a moment and read the article, Delayed But Not Denied, I had to experience that after my dad passed, I had to reevaluate ministry because the ones that I was serving now no longer thought I was worthy enough to serve them. Wow. So I had been serving them for 10 years, but now that my dad is gone, now that same anointing ain't good enough to lead you. That same anointing is not good enough. I was told recently, quickly after he passed, that I wouldn't be considered to be a successor. And at first that made me question ministry. But let me tell you how something God had to sit with me. He said to me, similar to what you said when you had your conversation with your father. The Lord sat with me and said a simple statement. It's not rejection, it's protection. And when I said, God explained that to me, God said to me, you have to know who called you. Did I call you or did they call you? And when I sat with that, he said, if I called you, your ministry is with me and I will plant you and do whatever work I need to do in you wherever I plant you. And then I had to realize that my ministry was not tied to a specific location. My ministry is what dwells in my belly, my spiritual belly. So wherever God takes me, my ministry goes with me. Wherever God sends me, my ministry goes with me. Wherever God, I could be in the store, wherever God tells me to minister, my ministry goes with me. So whether or not, wherever I am, I have learned the key thing that I want you to take is that what I've learned is my ministry goes with me. So it's between me and God. So wherever he uses me, that's where I'm set to minister. And so that's where my ministry mind has evolved based on me feeling like I had to be tied to a specific thing for me to minister, or that in order for me to be my dad's legacy, I had to be planted where he was. No, the Lord said that was his journey. You are his living legacy, but you have to work out your journey. I'll say that. You are his living legacy, but you have to work out your journey. His journey is over. Yours is still in here. And so that's where ministry has evolved for me. It's between me and God. And so we go wherever God sends us.
I love it. I absolutely love it, because here's the thing about that. My dad was one of those preachers, pastors that had that mindset. And he's Kojic, so that, that was, women didn't preach from the pulpit. They preach from, from the side or down at the floor. And my thing to him was like it was with me. One, who are you to call me? You don't call me. But two, I said, who are you to tell somebody who God can call and can't call and preach? I said, because I'm like, women can't bring the word of God. I said, and here's the thing too, in reference to the pulpit, I said, ministry, like you just said, and you said it so appropriately, is where you go. Ministry isn't just standing behind a pulpit. Ministry isn't just standing in a building, a church building, and preaching the gospel. The ministry is you. You are the ministry. And I used to tell my dad, and I see it so vividly now, even with my business. My business is my ministry, because the foundation of it is my Lord and Savior.
Absolutely.
My company is JNF Enterprises. The JNF stands for Jesus Never Fails. So the foundation of it is him. So everything that I do touches who God is. So it doesn't matter whether I'm in the church building, or like you said, I'm in the grocery store. I'm on a virtual podcast. Whatever that thing is, that wherever I am is that ministry, because it has the ability to touch anyone from anywhere.
Right.
That's what ministry is about. That's what Jesus was about. He touched people everywhere. It wasn't just, could you imagine Jesus saying, I can only preach from a pulpit? He preached everywhere. He went everywhere over in that region when he was preaching. He preached on the mountainside. He preached on the cross.
Absolutely.
He preached on the cross. So anywhere that we are, it is ministry. So that was actually, you led right into that next question, and because it's an interesting dynamic, even in 2022, that you and other women that are in ministry still encounter that now, and I'm gonna call it, and these pastors, ministers, the male ministers, they get mad if they want to. I don't care. You're calling it what God does is what God does. It's not what you that you all have to encounter that closed mindset of saying that that women can't be called, and women can't preach from the pulpit, and women can't be pastors. No, that is that's putting limitations to me. That's putting limitations on who God is and what God can do and what he calls. So I wanted to talk about that, because I know that you all as women have certain experiences in ministry. Just the simple fact of, like you said, just gender, and even like that when you were talking about not being selected, and the other minister being selected to be the pastor. And I mean, they had the mitigated gall to tell you that you would never, be the That's that would make anyone question ministry, just like it does. A lot of folks have turned away from the church.
Absolutely.
A lot of people have turned away from the church, and let's get into that. I want to get your take on that, and why do you think that you have a lot of people turning away from the church at this day and time? Because we're still in this pandemic that we're in. People have experienced this, the pandemic, and a lot of things have happened. But even before the pandemic, a lot of people have experienced hurt. A lot of people experience church hurt. Why do you think that it's that people have gone away from the church?
So when we talk about, so I have, I'm probably the one in the middle. When we talk about church hurt, and I've experienced some hurt within the church. But here's my take on that. We call it church hurt because we experience it in the church. But we have lost the perspective that the church is still filled with human beings. We have lost the fact and the understanding that the church is full of people just like me and you. So just like we don't always get it right, and I'm not justifying anything. No. What I'm saying is that we classify it as church hurt, and then we charge the entire church with it. We don't charge that particular pastor or that particular leader or that particular church member. We charge the whole church, which I think is unfair, because there are legitimate churches out here that legitimately are loving on people, that are legitimately committed to serving people, that are legitimately trying their best to do it God's way. Will they always get it right? Absolutely not. Because as Paul said, it's always a war between my spirit and my flesh. Guess what? The pastor still got a war between their spirit and their flesh. They're not going to always get it right. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. But the caveat to that kind of troubles me is when we say church hurt, I understand it because somebody in the church hurt you. I do understand it because guess what? I just shared with you one of my hurts. And I got a whole list of them. But what I learned through my time with God was the church didn't hurt me. That individual hurt me. The church didn't hurt me. The chairman of the deacon board hurt me. The church didn't hurt me. That leader hurt me by what they said. The church itself, God's church, did not hurt me. The person hurt me, which I had to then step back and ask myself, was that just because that person had a position, were they really operating in the spirit of Christ? If they weren't even operating in the spirit of Christ, or they were just in a position because somebody put them in a position, I can't charge the church for somebody being in a position that they were never ordained to be in, hurting me because they were never qualified to be there in the first place. So I oftentimes give my friends the analogy, when you're at work and your boss hurts you, do you say I'm leaving because I got workplace hurt? Do you say I'm done with this job because I got co-worker hurt or I got work hurt? No, we actually don't. Why? Because our coin is attached to it. So we go on to work even though they done mistreated us. We going to work even though they done betrayed us. We going to work even though they done said some stuff to us that done hurt our feelings. But the church is the only place that we go and we will totally walk away and say we're done with it because we were hurt by somebody. My thing is I went to God. When I experienced my hurt, I went to God to ask God to help me to deal with my hurt. So I didn't charge the whole church. I identified the individual that hurt me, pissed me off, tried to tear me down, tried to destroy me, tried to get me off track, tried to distract me. God, it was that person. That's who it was. Now, I ain't gonna lie. I said, now, God, you go get him. I ain't gonna lie. I was like, God, you need to go get him. Called them by name. God, you go get him. But what I learned is that I'll never disconnect from God's church or the fellowship of his church, because you got this big of a church and you got this many people mistreated. Right. I'll never charge the entire body because we got a handful of contaminated individuals who, if the truth be told, some of them don't belong in the position in the first place. Why? Because oftentimes it goes back to what you said about your father. Some of us are put in positions because we were told that's what we were supposed to do. So because we didn't do like you and say, hey, who are you to say that I ain't too sure. The Lord called me. Many of us take, if they say we're supposed to do it, we go and we do it.
Yeah.
But you have to have your own relationship with God to realize when it's God's timing and whether or not that's the position you have for God. Yes, I'm not going to negate or minimize anybody's hurt that they've experienced by somebody in the church, because we done experienced a lot of it. And especially in this COVID, some people have been mistreated.
Yeah.
Even during the transition of us with this COVID. I apologize to everybody on the behalf of leadership in the kingdom of God. I apologize to you for the hurt and mistreatment that you have experienced. But I challenge you and I urge you, do not charge God's whole church. The place that you may be in, you may need to shift your membership. You may need to reevaluate whether or not you were supposed to be planted there, or whether or not that is your leader. And it's a lot of different dynamics to that. Yeah. But I don't want you, because I'm telling you what I had to do, because I charged the church first too. I ain't gonna lie to you. I said I had church hurt too. And so God had to really, during my intimate time with him, had to say to me, Shavonna, my church didn't hurt you. So-and-so hurt you. And now I am trying to navigate. Do I always get it right? No. But now I'm trying to navigate where I actually put it where it belongs. And I actually put my disappointment, my hurt, my agony and my frustration, I put it where it belongs. I no longer say that I experienced church hurt. No, I experienced hurt from that particular church. No, I experienced hurt from that particular leader. No, I experienced hurt from that particular member. But I won't charge the entire body and say, God, that there's no good church, because there's some amazing churches out here that are really operating and doing the work of God to the best of their ability, trying to make God proud. And I will not charge all of them and say that it's total church hurt. And I think, we've thrown that word around so much, and it has given the church a negative stigma. And then also you have leaders who have hurt people, and when it's identified, don't want to own to your hurt. So if any leader is listening to me, if any of your members have expressed their hurt, realize that you're human, apologize, try to make it right, and let's go higher in Jesus. Listen, we all are flawed. And so you might not have got it right. Don't be so arrogant and don't be so strong-headed that because you are the leader, you say, whatever. I said what I said. No, we might, sometimes it's not always what we said, it's how we said it or how we approached it. We all are flawed, y'all. And guess what? Nobody's going to get it right 100% of the time but God. And so if we just learn how to be more compassionate and have the love of God, I mean, the real love of God, to really act, because it said love covers a multitude of sins. But most of us only want to cover certain people's sins. But that's a whole nother topic.
I know, right? Let the church say amen. You preaching up in here, Pastor. So, and that is so important that we, and I do believe that the church has such an unfortunately has a negative connotation on it in this day and time. And I've been adamant about saying that during this time with everything that's going on, not just in the church, I'm talking about in the world with the pandemic and everything else, the church cannot afford to be silent. It can absolutely not be silent. It needs to step forward. It needs to be the drum major of everything that's going on. It really does. And to that effect, what do you think? Why do you how important do you think it is for the church to have an impact in the community that it's a part of?
It's essential. I mean, it is like when I was growing up, our church within our community was the end all everything. I mean, we fed people, we did addiction ministry, we was having outdoor revival. I mean, it was the thriving center in the core of the community. It's like you said, we have lost the fact that we doing great ministry in the four walls. We doing great ministry, but the problem is that a lot of us are in our churches, and the people that live around our church, they don't even know us.
Yep.
Because we ain't never went outside. We ain't never did nothing for the community. We ain't never did nothing for the seniors that's in the community. The young people don't know us. Everybody in our church drive in. Everybody in our church is driving in from communities that's 30 minutes away, 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, it was essential for us to go out there and make sure that the neighborhood kids came to Vacation Bible School, that the neighborhood kids came to summer camp, that the neighborhood kids, they were singing on the children's choir. They wasn't even members, but they were coming to sing on the children's choir. You know, and hopefully the more they would sing, maybe their parents would come and they can all become members. Right. But we've lost that community. You know, part of my doctoral work was reaching and transforming with love beyond the borders. Okay. What does that mean? It will simply meant that some of our communities just want to see our face. Right. Some of our communities just want you to come out there and say hello. They don't want you to preach to them or nothing. Just walk by and say, hey, good morning. You know, we getting a food giveaway. Y'all need something down here? Right. I am like, and they tell me all the time, they say, Dr. Vaughn, I'm like, listen, you need some bread? I know you need some bread. Come on up here. Come up the street. We giving a food giveaway. Get you some bread and some canned goods, honey. And I'm real with them. And doing my doctoral work, one of the young guys that I interviewed, because with doctoral work, you got to do qualitative and quantitative research. Okay. So doing one of my interviews, I interviewed one of the young guys in the neighborhood. And after I interviewed him, and he was like, you know, I said, well, you know, he was looking at me strange. I said, what's wrong? He said, like, you really talking to me? And I said, well, what you mean by that? He was like, y'all don't talk to us. He was like, all y'all do is walk by. We see y'all see us on the corner. All y'all do is walk by. I literally looked at him. I said, I apologize. I was like, have I ever did that to you? He was like, no, but all the rest of y'all do. He was like, y'all don't talk to us. Y'all walk to the other side of the street, or y'all go in there and don't nobody say anything to us. He said, yo, you really talking to me like I'm regular. I said, you a regular person, aren't you? And when I was talking to him, it grieved my heart, because when I was younger, hey, we was all outside playing with the neighborhood kids. Now you saw the culture change, that the people at the church were no longer talking to the community. What does that do? It decreases the level of hope in the community. Where does the hope in the community come from? It comes from the church. Who else is going to show genuine love? It should come from the church. The hope, the love, the peace, you know, the community, should be the aspect of what we do. I'm not in this to serve the people in the church. I want you to get to know my Jesus. I want you to experience the love of my Jesus. Let me tell you, I want you to know that you can have joy and peace, but they're not going to know it, because why? We come in the church, we have good church, we shout and everything. We got good church in the four walls. We put on our coats, we walk outside, we walk to our cars, we pull off. And we've lost the community. Now, let me be clear before anybody try to come at me. It's not all churches, but a lot of churches, we have done good marketing to market our churches in the inside, but we ain't really did no outreach. We ain't really connected with the community, because we really don't want to talk to Lil Brian, who got his pants hanging down and he on the corner and he smell like weed. We don't really want to talk to Lil Brian, but I'm the one that goes on there, hey, Brian, you all right? Now, make sure you get you something to eat. And you're probably saying, well, Dr. Vaughn, why you ain't go over there and tell him he need to be delivered? Why? Because my thing is, you gotta reach with this first. Right. You gotta reach. Guess what? This generation, you can't beat them over here. You gotta get a connection with them first. You gotta get a connection. So I wanted him to know that I can't. Did you get something to eat? You out here drinking and smoke? Did you eat? And he was like, oh, Dr. Vaughn. I'm like, no. Going up there, carry out. You better put something on your stomach. And here's the thing, and I tell you this story. After then, I remember driving down the alley one day. The young guys came drunk and high. They yelling at me, move out the way. The preacher lady got to come through. Why do I say that? Because they never knew my name, but they knew the preacher lady, said something to them, said hello, told them make sure they get something to eat, told them I hope to see you one day. One day you're going to walk in here with me, all right? And they like, all right, doc. Yeah, all right, whatever. But guess what? One of them days, one of them boys came on over to the church. It was a Saturday event, but he came on over to the church. And he was like, is the preacher lady here? And they was like, well, who that? Who are you talking to? The lady that drive a red car that be parking over there. And they was like, you know, who, Dr. Vaughn? They was like, I guess that's her name. And when they saw me, they was like, you said come up here whenever I would. I said, you won't come? They came, got a hot dog during the community event, sat in one of the workshops. A couple of months later, he came to one of the services, or whatever the case may be. He still came with his pants hanging down his butt, but he came in the door or whatever. And periodically, he would just pop in. Listen, it ain't my job to save them. It's just my job to introduce them. But we as a church got to introduce it through love, y'all. We can't do this browbeating, because this generation, the browbeating don't work.
It didn't work back with us either. We just accepted it, but it didn't work.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point, though. That's a good point, though. But like, this generation is so used to trauma.
Yeah.
This generation is so used to the abrasiveness that don't affect them because you browbeat them and say they going to hell. Yeah. They like, all right, yo. Well, and one of the boys was like, well, I ain't gonna make it past 21 anyway.
Yep.
So that doesn't work for them. That doesn't work for them. But guess what? Show them a little bit of love. Yeah. Show them a little bit of love. What have we been called to do? The greatest, when we talk about salvation, y'all, real talk, salvation was about love. Mm-hmm. The redemptive love of God. God's greatest gift of love was to give Jesus as a sacrifice for us. So the greatest thing we can give to people is love.
Yeah. And you just made such a great point. And here's what God tells us to do. All he says is he says, if I be lifted up, I will draw all men. Our responsibility, like you said, is just to tell people about it. I'm just telling you about somebody that told me to tell you about him. His responsibility is to do the rest. He said he gonna do the rest. And I love that, because I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. His wife's a pastor, and he was talking about that very thing. He had these young men that were on the corner, because their church is right here in Baltimore, right in the hood. And he said it was a group of guys, and he just went and he talked. He said he talked to him. I said, dude, you're doing the right thing. I said, you're going about it the right way. I said, you're not over there trying to browbeat them. You're not trying to, you got to get saved and this, that, and the other. I said, because you're reaching them. I said, and that dude, they'll listen. They'll start to listen, like you were saying. Where the preacher woman at? They'll come just because of that, and they'll start to come periodically, and they get more and more Jesus each time that they get, and trust me, like we said, when we lift him up, he said he'll draw. So he'll do the drawing. We just lift him
absolutely.
Up. I'm just, I always think about the woman at the well that Jesus told about herself. She said when she left, she said, "Let me tell y'all about somebody that just told me about me." He didn't browbeat her. He said, he just let her know. She went and told everybody else, and brought those folks in. And we are charged to do the same thing. It just gives us the example of being able to do that when we do that. To that effect, let me ask you this: what does the 21st century church? How does it meet the needs of the community? And I have this thing that I do because I work with churches as well. But it's called a new approach to sin. It's not SIN, it's CIN, which is a commitment to impacting the needs of the community. How does the 21st century church, how does it meet the needs of the community that it's a part of?
Well, that goes back to what you just said, is we have to, first of all, you got to know the needs of your community, where you are planted, because it's not a one for all, because every community don't need the same thing. So wherever your church is planted, wherever your ministry is planted, you need to know the needs of your community. But how else do you know it unless you go out there to interact with your actual community to find out their needs? Because guess what? It may not be an outdoor revival that's going to get them saved. Mm-hmm. It may be a food giveaway that's going to get them saved. It may be a back to school drive that's going to get them saved. Listen, my grandma used to always say, she's from the country. There's more than one way to skin a cat. We have to realize that there are different methods to be able to outreach. And so while something may be working for one church in East Baltimore, it may not work for the church in West Baltimore. Right. We can't just have a one for all. You have to take time to learn, go beyond the walls, learn your community, but then also be okay to new methods. We can't be so boxed in to say, these are 4 methods that we use for outreach. Mm-hmm. That these are the 4 methods, because guess what? It may be a poetry night. Yep. That may reach these young people out there. It may be a spoken word night. It may be a family night where you bring the family in and say, you know what, it's about to be a family game night. And The father and mother and the children ain't did nothing together in years. Now all of a sudden they in the same room playing a family game. I'm giving you an analogy of what I know. Playing a game in the church hall because y'all got family night. And this is the first time that they've been and actually did something together. It's ignited something. Hear what I'm saying? It's ignited something in that family that they had lost. And now they like, oh, we need to get this game at home. It's ignited healing and a connection. What is that? That's the work of God. That's the work of God working on the heart. So what am I saying? Everything is not always going to be a revival. Everything. Now, listen, I believe in church. I believe in revival. Listen, I am a preacher. We need all of that. But we also need to expand to realize that there are some other things we need to incorporate. And you only can realize that when you go and interact and see what your community needs. If you know that it's a lot of single mothers in your neighborhood that got a lot of boys and everything, you might want to ignite a little sports league in your church. I'm giving you some nuggets. You may want to ignite a little sports thing in your church and put out flyers and say, you know what? We about to put the basketball goal out on the church parking lot. We're going to have some one-on-ones with the boys, invite all your, drop off your kids for a couple of hours. That mother is now experiencing healing. Ministry, I'm trying to help you. Ministry, she's experiencing healing because she thinks she don't have no help. But the church just gave her help for her boy who don't have a father, because now you're incorporating some sports thing where this little boy can now experience not only sports, but he can now experience a godly man speaking into his life. You can navigate, throw a couple of things in there, learn how to weave. We in the 21st century have to learn how to do things that work for us. I'm not saying throw away with nothing because I'm old school church all the way. But even when I'm dealing with my women's empowerment, I have to learn the women that I'm talking to that the old way of women's ministry may not work for them. Like having a seminar in the church may not work for them. Right. We may need to just have a round robin to have a little powwow, and all of a sudden breakthrough coming through. They crying, they getting delivered. Well, the church service wouldn't have worked for them because the conference method doesn't give them an opportunity to really release. Now I can release you over here and then have a conference to restore you. You got to learn how to weave it all together. But the problem is we box ourselves in to say, this is the only way that you can do ministry. And if you're doing anything out of there, that ain't God. Who told you that ain't God? Listen, if you notice, Jesus was walking through. He didn't heal everybody the same thing. The man at the pool of Bethesda, he didn't even touch him. He just was, hey, will you be made whole? He asked him a question. Yep. But then he touched Jay Iris's door. I mean, there was different methods. We have to realize there's some things we're going to have to put our hands on. And then there's some things we're going to be able to speak. I hope you understand. There are some things we're going to be able to speak, which means preach over in a conference. And then there's some things we're going to have to get intimate settings and touch it. We're going to have to touch that thing that's uncomfortable. Why? Jesus showed us all of these methods to ministry, but we've boxed ourselves in to only the speaking method of ministry. We don't want to touch nothing. We don't want to get our hands dirty. We don't want to touch nothing. But we have to realize that we have to navigate and weave all of these methods because all of these different types of people are coming in our congregations. All of these different type of people are coming in our ministries, are experiencing our online ministries. We have to navigate and be able to reach all of them. But then also we got to be comfortable that every ministry is not meant for everybody. Do what you've been called to do. Reach who you've been called to reach. And if we all reaching who we've been called to reach, then everybody going to be reached.
I love it. And the 21st century, to me, not only 21st century way of doing business, but the 21st century way of doing church is doing it outside the box. And the God I serve, God I know, I can't put him in the box. I can't. He don't fit in the box. I'm sorry. He just don't. He don't. He doesn't fit in the box. And when we want to have this cookie cutter ministry, it doesn't. It can't be easily. It's not going to apply to everyone, like you just said. There's some that you're going to reach in a conference, and some you're going to be able to reach at a revival. There's some that you got to go and meet them where they absolutely are. And
Mm-hmm.
you can't get them to the revival if you don't first get them on the corner.
Amen.
I'm just saying, y'all. I'm just saying, y'all. Okay. All right. I want you to tell us a little bit about Dr. Shavonna's ministry. What is the mission of Dr. Shavonna's ministry? Tell us about your mission.
So my mission is to push, produce, and pursue. So my mission for everyone that I encounter, whether it's my preaching ministry, whether it's my coaching ministry, whether it's my mentoring ministry, because all of that is aspects of Dr. Shavonna Whitehead. And so I have the whole facet of I am the woman of God. I am the preacher. I am the prophetic voice that God has created me to be. But then I'm the life and empowerment coach. I am the mentor. I'm the wife and mother. So I'm all of those. That's the ministry, because even my marriage and my mothering to my children is still part of my ministry. Mm-hmm. And so when I use those words, I interchange them in every aspect. I push, those I'm connected to. I push them to pursue whatever God has for them. I don't dictate it. I push them to pursue whatever God has for them. And in my pushing them to pursue, I give them the tools as God gives me on how to pursue that. But with the ultimate end goal is to produce what God has. So many of us will pursue it, but we'll never produce. We'll go after it, but we never see it all the way through. Well, I'm the more pusher. I'm the one that's going to push you to produce. I push my husband. I push my mentees. I push my children. I am the one that will ask you, I want you to push all the way through the delays, through the disappointments, through the frustration, through the setbacks, through the heartache, through the pain, through the failures, through the potholes, through the everything. Push through all of that to keep pursuing what God has called for you, what God has put in there for you. But then not only that, after you pursue it, I am there to be the one pushing you to produce. I want to see the manifestation of what God has for you. And so no matter whether or not you're encountering me in my preaching, whether or not you're encountering me when it's prayer time, whether or not you're encountering me where we're doing some coaching, public or private, or whether or not we're doing one-on-one mentoring, I am the one that's going to do the push, the pursue, and the production. That's my thing with everything, nothing to hinder you. I'm that whirlwind behind you that when you give me excuses that you can't be what God said you can be, I'm that pusher behind you to say, nope, keep pushing. Nope, keep pursuing, because there's something that needs to be produced. Am I perfect? No. I make failures and I fall and I get off track just like everybody else. But then I'm reminded of myself. Wait a minute, Shavonna, you stop pushing. Wait a minute, Shavonna, you stop pursuing. You want to know why you're not producing? You stop the first two. So then I got to go shake my own self up and I got to go back to my first two. And I got to say, wait a minute, I got to get back on this push. I got to get back on this push. And that push pushed me to become the author that I am, which leads into the book. I didn't even set out to do the book. I actually was just journaling, jotting down how I was navigating, how I was getting through, the delay periods, how I was getting through the denial, I was getting through the frustrating periods. And then God just was like, no, we're going to package this all together. So that's where the whole I am more now came from. But that's what I put in the minds of everybody I connect from. I tell you're more when God says you're more, not when the finished product comes through. If God spoke over you today and said you're going to be X, Y, and Z, grab it. You are it. Tag, you're it. You are that right then and there. Now you got a journey you got to go through to manifest that. But you are already more when God says you're more. When he identified who you were and named it, you are that. And so that's me. I'm just trying to see everybody be the best them that they can be. So I push everybody. I push everybody because we're better together. So if I push you, then I can get where I need to be. Why? Because part of the manifestation of the ministry I have is to push you. So if you don't get where you need to be, then I'm still in the process. So when I push you, I push me.
I love that. Push, pursue, and produce.
Mm-hmm.
Push, y'all need to write that down. Push, pursue,
Yes.
and produce. Because it's God has the assignment that he gives everything. Everything that he has given, that he's created, he's given the ability to produce. And when we don't produce, we do him a disservice, because everything in the Bible that does not or did not produce, I ain't got to tell y'all what happened to it. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So, Dr. Shavonna, all right, I got two last things, and then we'll close out. And I want you to give your contact information, how people can connect with you too. But I want you to talk to that individual right now who may be standing on the corner, who may be sitting in the home discouraged, who may be saying, what do I need to do? What's my next step? I can't take another step. This pandemic is wearing me out. I want you to talk to them for a second and encourage them for a minute, if you could.
And so the first thing that I would say to that individual that is, you're looking for hope, that individual that doesn't think you're worthy, I just want to say one statement to you before I say anything else, is that you are enough. You are enough. You are enough. Even at your current place and stage in your life, you are enough. And whatever has happened to you, you are not what happened to you. What happened to you may have been a part of your journey, but there's still life in you. God still loves you. God still wants to use you. There is still purpose in your life. And oftentimes, life circumstances make us second guess our worth. Life situations make us second guess whether or not God loves us. Life situations make us think that it's just hopeless and there's no point of pushing. But I came by today just to let you know, you are enough. You are enough. What has happened to you does not dictate where God can take you. Your lineage does not dictate where God can take you. Who you've been connected to does not dictate where God can take you. Your failures and your failures and your faults do not hinder you. They have the ability to fuel you to where you need to be. They don't have to be a hindrance. They don't have to be your end. All you have to do right now is listen to what I'm saying to you today. God loves you. God put purpose inside of you, and you can do whatever it is that God has placed inside of you. I don't care how many people say no. I don't care how many people say you're not worth it. You have to know that you matter. God loves you, and your purpose is still just that. God still got something locked up inside of you. You, and you, the boy on the corner, the one that's lacking hope, the one in the middle of the storm. God got purpose for you too, not just me. He got purpose for you too. So whatever words that are spoken over top of you, know that they are just that. They do not dictate God's purpose for your life. So wherever you are, know today you have another opportunity to grab that hope, know that you matter, and say, I'm going after everything that belongs to me. You don't have to settle. I don't care what you've done. You do not have to settle. God is not just a God of a second chance, because I passed that second chance a long time ago. I'm just trying to tell you about me. He the God of 1,000 chance, 100,000 chance. Listen, he is a God that will keep coming after you. And guess what? Since you're listening to this today, know that he came after you today to let you know you matter. You matter, and you still have purpose inside of you.
Now y'all see why Upwards had to bring these folks to y'all. This is truly just inspiring. Now, the last question before I want you to give your contact information.
Sure.
My mantra for 2022 is it's building season. It's building season. I'm gonna say that one more time for y'all. It's building season. What is SLW Ministries building in 2022? What is it that people can look forward to and come to in 2022?
So SLW Ministries, Dr. Shavonna L. Whitehead, LLC, is building a space for restoration and birthing. It's building a space for restoration and birthing. And so weekly, we have our lunchtime empowerment talks with Dr. Vaughn every Tuesday at 1 p.m. via Facebook Live. We are consistent. We're actually celebrating 2 years. Cool. Next Tuesday is our second anniversary, where we've been impacting every Tuesday at 1 p.m. We give you a little push because we want to make sure that you have the tools that you need to get where you need to be. We have our She's More Now connectional resource, where we bring in the actual resources, whether it's finances, whether it's not it's relationship, whether or not it's self-care. We have that on the last Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. where we connect you with some powerful resources, because I can't do it by myself. So I connect you to some amazing resources, because it's all about collaboration. We talk about building, it's about collaboration. So I bring in somebody different once a month to say, hey, connect to them too. You need everything you can to get where you need to be. And then we have our mentoring. Our next Breaking the Box cohort, which is going to on our website, will launch in June. It's a 4-week intensive where we push you twice a week. We get you ignited. We push you all the way, and we get you started on your journey of transformation. That metamorphosis journey where you go from being what was to what needs to be. And then we have our Restore Your Roar Empowerment Brunch. We have it yearly. Our annual Restore Your Roar Empowerment Brunch is May the 14th. All the information is on my Facebook page, which I'll give you shortly, but it's also on our website and everything, where guess what? We talk about getting your voice back. We talk about learning your strength after you've experienced the very thing that took it all away. We talk about how to restore you back to that power woman. It's a women's empowerment brunch, but it's May the 14th. We have it every year, and it will be May the 14th this year. And so listen, we are about doing what God has for us to do at Dr. Shavonna L. Whitehead, LLC. Starting in May, we will start having in-person sessions where we will house them at Ark Church of Baltimore, where we will have in-person sessions where we can have an empowerment roundtable. Let's get it all out. Let's talk about it. Let's deal with it. But most of all, let's love each other through it in the room. And so we are just doing what God has for us as we begin to reach who we've been called to reach. We can't reach everybody, but we can reach who we've been called to reach and fulfill our assignment, whatever that is that God has for us. And I believe that God is continuing to build us and expand us and shape us and mold us. I have a t-shirt. My good sister, Jolanda, has a line that says, keep building. I went and bought multiple shirts, and every time I get frustrated, I put my keep building shirt on. It's ironic that that's your theme. I put my shirt back on every time I get weary and say, you know what, Dr. Vaughn, keep building. Shavonna, keep building, keep building, keep building. Why? Because whoever I'm assigned to needs whatever God has inside of me. So I can't stop building. I can't sit by the wayside because somebody's purpose and destiny is tied to that. And listen, I just want all of us to be better. And so we are continuing to build. I don't know what God else has in store, but guess what? I'm definitely going with God.
And you can't go wrong with that. You can't go wrong.
I know.
Absolutely. So if you can give us your contact information. How can people connect with you to be able to, one, connect with your ministry, but then two, I know you mentioned, we didn't get a chance to talk about it, but your book that you got, I Am More Now.
Oh, sure.
Because we're gonna talk about, I need, once we finish here, I got something else to talk to you about that book. So yeah, if you can give your contact information for folks, that'd be great.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So the t-shirts, the book, the mugs, all of the materials that go along with the ministry materials that go along with the book are on my website, which is www.shavonnawhitehead.com. Again, that website is www.shavonnawhitehead.com. It's on that website where you can purchase the book, you can purchase the materials, you can look up the life coaching, you can look up the sessions. All of that is housed right on our direct website. On Facebook, I am Shavonna Whitehead. Or we also have two groups on Facebook. It's our She's More Now community page. Then we have a more private group that says Manifesting More with Dr. Vaughn, That's a private group where we want you to be committed to the journey. So that group, you actually, is not to everybody. It's those who really want to get to there more. And then on Instagram, it is I am Dr. Vaughn. And so listen, connect with me, stay connected with me. Head over to the website. We have a bi-weekly newsletter that comes out called the Phoenix Newsletter. Listen, connect, sign, subscribe on the website again, www.ShavonnaWhitehead.com. Click that subscribe button, stay connected to us. I believe that God is going to have us doing great and mighty things in this season, and I'm excited.
Absolutely, you absolutely should be. You absolutely should be. So, Dr. Vaughn, thank you so much for
My pleasure.
coming and being with us on Upwards Magazine. You all can get the current issue, which she is on the cover of. You can go to the website, which is https://upwardsmagazine.strikingly.com. You can go there, you can subscribe, and then you can also read the current issue, which she is a part of. This is a powerful woman of God, impacting the community. As y'all can see from this conversation, she is doing some phenomenal and fantastic things, and that's why we wanted to bring you this conversations, these uplifting, upwards conversations, so that you can see more than the articles, but to get to see the individuals that are doing so much, that are inspiring, that are impacting our communities in such a way to make them better. Because Dr. Vaughn, my goal is always to make people better by the end of the year than they were at the beginning of the year. And we do that by bringing them individuals like you, introducing them to individuals like you, having uplifting upwards conversations like this, so that people can begin to see, I want to do, make them see, I want to do better, shift their mindsets and say, I want to do better, I can do better, I am better. So thank you so much.
Pleasure.
It's been a rich conversation. This has been a conversation that I know people will be blessed by. I know that people will be blessed by your article when they read about the great things that you have going on in the magazine, but then also blessed by your ministry and the great things that you're doing there. So if you want to give your contact information one more time so that people can have that, and then we'll close out, okay?
Sure, absolutely. The website is www.ShavonnaWhitehead.com. On Facebook, I am Shavonna Whitehead. The two groups for my mentoring and my life coaching is She's More Now. And then the other group is Manifesting Your More with Dr. Vaughn. And then on Instagram, it is I am Dr. Vaughn, and that's DRVON. So I am Dr. Vaughn. And so connect with me and stay connected to me.
Absolutely. It's 2022, y'all. It's building season. What are you building in 2022? If you don't take anything from today, I want you to take away this. Push. I want you to push. I want you to pursue and then produce. Like she said, you got to push. You got to pursue. What are you pursuing? And then that will lead you to what you produce.
Yes.
I love that. So it's your boy, Dr. Leroy McKenzie Jr. This is our inaugural episode of Upwards Magazine with Upwards Conversations. It's been a pleasure being with you all, and we will see you all next month as we have our next episode of Upward Conversations. We'll talk to y'all soon.